and welcome to my top 5 7th Doctor stories ranking. So we're now at the end of the 7th Doctor, just after doing More Than 30 Years in the TARDIS review. We're now at the end of the 7th Doctor's era, as the next review will be Doctor Who, the movie. So that'll be the 8th Doctor's first on-screen story, and his first story full stop, to be honest. It will be the last appearance of the 7th Doctor, but as we'll be going into the 8th Doctor during the story, then we're stopping his era right here. But we're not. But like I said, we're going to go up to just before the TV movie instead of stopping at the final TV story. So, okay, top 5 7th Doctor stories. There's only 12, to be honest, excluding Wilderness Year stuff. There's only 12 on-screen stories. So that, again, makes it easy for this list, even more easy than the 6th Doctor one, because even though the 6th Doctor had 11 stories, 8 if you counted Trial of Time Lords as 1, yeah, that's your problem right there. Trial of Time Lords, do you count as 1 or 4? That's why the 7th Doctor's one is easier, because you've got 12 standalone ones instead of 4 that make 4 segments of this one story. And do you count it as 1 or do you count it as 4? I counted it as 4, so it was easier for me. Otherwise, I think Trial of Time Lords probably wouldn't make the list. There was two parts of Trial of Time Lords, two segments of Trial of Time Lords that made that list. I don't even know if the whole story as a whole would have made the list at all. Maybe last. Maybe. I'm not sure. Maybe 5th or the honourable mention. Excuse me. So it was much easier to do a top 5 for the 7th Doctor. To be honest, 3 of these stories are 3 of the best stories from the 80s, and one of them just missed off being on this list and was an honourable mention. So you get 4 stories I mentioned from the 1980s ranking, an honourable mention, and 3 top 10 80s stories in this ranking. So, yeah, that's cool. You also get a controversial opinion one as well. Okay, before we start, though, the dishonourable mention of the 80s stories, and probably my 3rd least favourite of the 80s stories. I think the 4th and 5th Doctor dishonourable mentions I mentioned are worse than this one, but this one is certainly the weakest of the Sylvester McCoy era. That's why it was my dishonourable mention of the 1980s ranking. And this is, of course, Time and Arani from season 24. Okay, I pretty much already spoke about this one a few times in my review, my season 24 ranking, and my 1980s ranking, but in short, worst regeneration story and worst post-regeneration story. 6th Doctor deserved better, by the way. See The Last Adventure audio series. That's a very great series. Check it out. And yeah, but at least the 7th Doctor, no, he doesn't really get off to a great start either. I mean, McCoy I like, but yeah, it's yeah, I think the best thing is Kate O'Mara. Basically, Kate O'Mara is the best thing in this. I think this is also Bonnie Langford's worst Doctor Who story as Mel, and yeah, the costumes are okay, but the story is terrible. It doesn't really make that much sense either. So yeah, Time in the Rani. I think most people can agree it's one of the worst, if not the worst, of the McCoy era. Although I didn't really like parts of Dragonfire. I did rant on parts of Dragonfire, but at least most of that story was pretty solid. Half of that story was pretty solid, and half of it was stupid and fucking awful. Especially the little girl bits, but at least half of it was good. This, not really, no. I think it's just a little bit good. I'm actually surprised I gave it a 3. Maybe it's because I just wasn't that angry about it. I suppose it was because I was expecting it to be bad as opposed to Warrior's Gate, where I'd only seen it once, I didn't think that much of it, and then rewatching it I got pissed. So yeah. So Time in the Rani. Not really that great at all. Honourable mention, on the other hand, is a really great story, and I think quite a lot of you McCoy fans, well, maybe not the McCoy fans, but quite a lot of fans of the show are going to be a bit annoyed that this is not in the top 5 list. Like I said, I've got a controversial opinion on the top 5 list, so people are probably going to get even more angry that this isn't in the top 5 list. And this is The Greatest Show in the Galaxy from season 25. Okay, yeah, I like Greatest Show in the Galaxy, but I don't think it's a masterpiece like lots of people will say it is. I mean, I read in the reception bit on the Wikipedia page that McCoy fans don't think that highly of it, or at least It's not one of their most popular ones. Then again, some McCoy fans might beg to differ, to be honest. But it's certainly a very highly regarded one amongst the fan community. And yeah, that's true. It's very true. Two of my friends from the Whoniversals, Matt Moyer and John Luke Harry, they do a worst Who podcast commentary series where they take a look at worst Doctor Who stories. Time the Running was a special one. They did one for the Whoniversal, especially for Time the Running, and again for Twin Dilemma. I think they mostly did new series ones for their channel, but they have delved into classic series a few times. And then after that, they started doing the best of Who, and their first one was Greatest Show in the Galaxy. So they definitely love that story. However, I think it's great. I think it's a brilliant story. Second best of season 25. However, it's not as amazing as I think most people consider it. I think it's amazing, but not enough to get into top 5. Top 6, top half of the McCoy list, definitely, but not top 5. This is a top 5 list, so yeah, so we have to go on to the top 5. And now we can start the ranking properly. Number 5. Now, this one used to be actually a bit higher on my list, but it's gone down a bit due to me finding 2 other stories a lot more fun and enjoyable and just bloody brilliant on the rewatches. So my number 5 has dropped from 3 to 5. This is the controversial opinion one, by the way. It is, of course, from season 24, Delta and the Bannerman. Yeah, this is probably the most controversial pick I've ever done for a ranking, outside of this being the best story of season 24. Okay, in fairness to that ranking, the only competition would be Paradise Towers, because I don't really like Dragonfire, it's 50-50. I like parts of Dragonfire, I hate other parts of it. I'm not going to give it the satisfaction of being the best story of the season. And as for Time in the Running, well, I just explained why that's the worst story of the McCoy era, so of course I'm not going to give that one the best season 24 story position. So really, Delta and the Bannerman's only proper competition was Paradise Towers, and to be Paradise Towers is bottom 6 material. I mean, it's not bottom 3, it's bottom 6, bottom 4 even, but it's not the worst. So Delta and the Bannerman, some people will say it's one of the worst stories of the McCoy era. I say it's one of the best. I really enjoyed it. I think it was a very good plot. Yeah, there was some tone inconsistencies, and some characters didn't need to be there, but I really enjoyed watching those characters who didn't need to be there. Unlike characters like, I don't know, that little girl from Dragonfire. She didn't need to be there, and I just got pissed off watching her. And Goronway earned his final shot of the story. She, the little girl from Dragonfire, didn't. The little girl from Dragonfire did not earn that final shot of the episode of her watching the TARDIS disappear. Goronway earned his final shot of looking up into the sky and realising time travel was possible. He earned that by being a likeable character. Even if he wasn't that necessary to the plot, he was likeable, so he earned that final shot. And I will argue this till the end of time, literally the story and eternity, that Goronway earned his final shot of this story. And I will stand by him forever, because I like Goronway. Even if he wasn't pointless, even though he wasn't really that much of a necessary character, I still liked him, and I consider him, and I think he earned that final shot. So I'm going to be shouting about that for eternity. Okay, other parts about Dragonfire I like. I think most of the actors do great. I know Sylvester. I think the actors do great. I really enjoyed quite a lot of the humour. Thought it was a pretty fun story, and I love the rock and roll music. I'm not really a modern music person. I mean, again, like Dragonfire, there's some good, some bad. I'm more of a 50s to 90s person. I kind of got brought up on that stuff, and so listening to the 50s music here and also 60s music in Remembrance of the Daleks, always a good sign. It's a shame we didn't get any 70s music in season 26. Anyway, we don't even get that in Hyde, and that's set in the 70s. We get some 80s music in Cold War, though. But that's Series 7, that's a bit of a way off. But yeah, and some really cool action scenes, and I love McCoy's Doctor starting to get a bit more darker. I mean, it's signs of that in Paradise Towers, and we'll get signs of it in Dragonfire, but I like how it's starting to seep through here in Delta and the Bannerman. He's also allowed to let off his more comedic side here as well, like also in Greatest Show in the Galaxy as well. He can be dark and serious, but he can also have some light, fun moments that McCoy was probably most known for at the time before becoming the Doctor and starting to be a bit more of a darker incarnation. Yeah, for me, Delta and the Bannerman is the 5th best Sylvester McCoy 7th Doctor story. This will be a very controversial opinion, but I'm going to be standing by my love for this story until, again, the end of time. Both the story and eternity. Okay, moving on to number 4. A bit more of a more popular opinion story. We're now moving into season 26, which I believe is the most popular McCoy season and possibly the most popular of the 80s seasons. And one of the most popular seasons of the classic era. And yeah, I think this is a very strong season. I think there's only really one not very good story that will not be on this list. But the other 3 are amazing, and this is the first of those 3. Battlefield. Yeah, this is my honourable mention from the 80s ranking, by the way. Battlefield is amazing. Fantastic last story for the Brigadier. Well, last on-screen story in Doctor Who. He will be back from Enemy of the Bane in Sarah Jane Adventures, as well as Dimensions in Time, and he'll be back from plenty of expanded media, including the Big Finish audios. He even gets his own unit spin-off series that then has its own spin-off series, the new series Units, which is led by his daughter Kate. These series is 7, 8, and 9. I also think the new Brigadier Bambira is a lot of fun. I like how she has this sort of relationship with Antolin, I believe his name is, the knight, how they kind of rivals to start with, well, at least not really liking each, well, she doesn't really like him. He kind of gets infatuated with her, and then over the course of the story, she kind of gets to like him a lot. I also love the actor playing Mordred. He is so into his role. He is loving every minute of it. And Jean Marsh delivers her best on-screen performance, especially at the very end of part 4. She is amazing. And Sylvester McCoy, he's also up to his game. Sophie Aldred's up to her game. And got some good supporting characters as well. Some really nice ones. A couple of them could rival Delta and the Bannermans. Some of them are a bit more necessary. Other ones, yeah, they're still good. And also Robert Jezek, who goes on to play a couple of characters in Big Finish, most notably Frobisher, gets an appearance. He appears in this story as a Polish unit soldier. That's really cool. And it's a great action-packed story. And Benavarich, again, he's knocked out the park a second time after his other story, which we'll also get to in this ranking, obviously. And I was just hoping... So I was wondering if Earth-Aid would have been another knocked out the park story had that story been made, as that was going to be season 27's opener. The original season 27. The season 27 we now know was opened by a Russell T Davies episode, Rose. Yep, series 1. Again. Okay, so yeah, Battlefield. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. It's a shame that these 3 episodes are the lowest viewed Doctor Who episodes of in all time. In fact, season 26 has the 11 lowest viewed episodes of all time. And I think it's got another 3 pretty low ones. I think all of Battlefield, Ghostlight, and Curse of Fenric are the 11 lowest viewed episodes in terms of viewing figures. Then you've got Eaters of Light from Series 10. Then it's Survival Part 2. Then it's Lie of the Land, again from Series 10. Then it's the other 2 episodes of Survival 1. Then 3 is the most watched of the season. And then other episodes probably from Series 10 or Season 25. Big cry from a decade earlier where the highest view episode, City of Death Part 4, was airing. Anyway, moving on to number 3. Number 3 is a spectacular story. And like Steve Gallagher and Christopher Bailey before him, Ian Briggs' second story is a vast improvement on his first. I am, of course, talking about The Curse of Fenric. The Curse of Fenric. Yep, The Curse of Fenric. What a story. This one is amazing. Ian Briggs, I don't know what happened because he wrote Dragonfire and I didn't really like that one. Okay, rewatch, I liked a bit more of it. But like I said, it's kind of 50-50. That's hence the 5 out of 10 score. But Curse of Fenric, this was almost a 10. This was amazing. This was almost outstanding. A few little niggles, but can live with them. It's a fantastic way to wrap up this 7th Doctor Ace relationship. I know they have several more stories, in expanded media, and this wasn't going to be the final story with them. You had Survival and then 2 episodes and 2 stories in season 27 had that season been made. And without that, you do have Search Out Science at the Search Out Science special, Search Out Space and Dimensions in Time, and again expanded media. But my goodness, this was a great way to wrap up to kind of tie up the relationship. And this is why I'm happy this story did broadcast third instead of first when it was originally planned. It also meant that Ben Aaronovitch's story got to go first again. Which for the second of what would have been 3 times in a row, but just became 2 times in a row. And Curse of Fenric's just amazing. It's more great supporting characters, both on the good and bad side. He for the time, the budget, they're actually quite inventive. And I like how it's all tying the McCoy era up nicely, and how it's tying Ace's story. Ian Briggs did introduce the character, as well as hinting at other points of the Seventh Doctor's life, and also more mystery into the Seventh Doctor himself with his battle with Fenric. Oh, this is so brilliant! It's so great, and it's a nice World War II setting story as well. It's the first story set in World War II. Of course, the new series will do a few more during or just before World War II stories, just before the 1938 set stories, and then it do a lot of 1941 set stories as well. 38 and 41 seem to be the most popular years in terms of a pre and during World War II stories. I wonder if there'll be a post-World War II story at some point. Demons of the Punjab is probably the closest, but that was on the partition in the late 40s, not so much on the end of the war. This story here is set in 43, so that's cool, and I like how it's also I also like how it's kind of a mirror image of British and Russian relationships at the time of 1989, with the British-Russian relationships in 1943 in this story. I like that a lot, and yeah, it just works so well. And Fenric is a great villain. Oh. Brilliant stuff. Well done, Ian Briggs. You vastly improved over Dragonfire. So, Curse of Fenric, amazing. Number 2. Number 2 is the first of the 2 10 out of 10 stories in this ranking, and this is the best story from Season 26. It's also the last story of Season 26, and the last story of the entire classic era as a whole. Survival. Survival, the final story of the entire classic era, and until the show came back in 2005, excluding the TV movie and Wilderness Year stuff, this is the last episode of the show. And Rona Munro, again, hits it out the park. I say again, like Ben Aaronovitch and Ian Briggs this season. Not Mark Platt, though. Sorry, Mark Platt will hit it out the park in expanded media, but not here. But Rona Munro hits it out the park. And amazing story. So bloody brilliant. Also, the only story in the season, as I've mentioned a few times, to go off-world for a bit instead of staying on Earth, although there is a lot of Earthbound story, but it is a present-day Earthbound Perivale set story. So that's interesting, present-day Perivale. Nice to see Ace's home, as well as go off to this cheetah planet for a bit of fun. And yeah, there's a great story of using the survival of the fittest elements, and Anthony Annie gets one last fantastic final appearance as the Master, minus his Destiny of the Doctor's cutscenes. But I certainly think for his last TV story, I don't think he could have gone much better. They got the Master in a place where he was kind of stumped for a bit, and I'm sure he survived. I mean, he has to. He's in Destiny of the Doctors and the TV movie and plenty of other expanded media. But yeah, this is definitely a story where you put the Master quite into the neck of trouble for himself. Whoopsies. And he gets a final fight with the Seventh Doctor. Pretty cool stuff. So, yeah, Survival. I think this was an amazing final story. And I also loved the Ace development throughout the story, especially the bisexual, lesbian subtext. But I think the character is bisexual due to her liking some men. See Remembrance of the Daleks and The Curse of Fenric. But there is also some lesbian undertones in this story, so it's possible she could be bisexual. They might go into more detail about this in the expanded media, thanks to these subtleties and subtext. And yeah, it was a really fun story, really enjoyable. Great final story. But it's not the best story of the Sylvester McCoy era. There's still at least one that's better. Survival is outstanding and near perfect, but number one number one is the god of all stories, or my personal favourite story of all time. Although that one might change to this one, depending on what I think on the rewatch of that. And the favourite at the moment is Day of the Doctor, but it could change to this one. It could change to this story, and if that is the case, then this will be the god of all Doctor Who stories. This is the best story of the classic series, full fucking stop. And tops the 1980s ranking. It's topping this ranking. It topped its season ranking, and like I said, it would top it's the classic series best stories ranking. And if Day of the Doctor went down in opinion, then this would be the best episode, the best story of the entire show, full stop. And this story is, of course, the magnificent, the outstanding, the fantastic, the amazing Remembrance of the Daleks. What can I say that I haven't said before about this story? It's fucking awesome. I love the story. I love the direction. I love the characters. The supporting cast are some of the best in the show. You can see why Big Finish made a spin-off series a lot about them, like they did with Jago and Lightfoot. The villains are also really great, and the Daleks are amazing. Okay, the voices aren't that amazing. It's okay, Nicholas Briggs' Dalek voices are only a few episodes away. We're nearly at Dalek. We can handle it. We can handle... to be honest, these are better Dalek voices than Resurrection and Remembrance and Five Doctors. But, yeah, classic Dalek voices. They weren't usually the best after Genesis of the Daleks. Or even between Evil of the Daleks and Genesis of the Daleks, to be honest. But Nicholas Briggs' Dalek voices from Dalek onwards in the TV series, they're not too far away. In fact, Roy Skelton's Curse of the Fatal Death Dalek voices aren't even that far away. I'm looking forward to those ones as well. Fingers crossed they stay good. But that's really about the only nitpick that I have with this story. Everything else is fantastic. Fantastic action, fantastic script, fantastic direction. Acting, superb. Characters, superb. And it ties up the Dalek story so well. Of course, the Daleks are not completely dead, neither is Skara, because they have to come back for the TV movie and the Time War. And then Skara is destroyed there, but then it's brought back as the Asylum of the Daleks, and the Magician's Apprentice, the Witch's Familiar, and the Daleks, of course, keep coming back. And also, the Big Finish audio Terra Firma is direct response to the events of this story, and the Eighth Doctor has to deal with the repercussions that his predecessor and consequences that his predecessor caused for Davros and the Daleks. And what an amazing story. Oh, I just love this one. Another nitpick is that they cut the scene where Davros calls the Doctor. He's only just says, "In the end, you are just another Time Lord," and the Doctor responds, "Oh, Davros, I am far more than just another Time Lord." I wish that scene had been kept in the episode. That's in the Dalek voices. They're my only real niggles with that story. But apart from that, everything's perfect. Everything is absolutely perfect. I love this story. I love it. And I know it's a very popular one amongst the fan community, and I think it's generally considered the strongest Seventh Doctor Sylvester McCoy story, and generally considered one of the best of the show. So I'm very happy to see that here, see that amongst stories like Genesis of the Daleks, Caves of Androzani, Inferno, Blink, The Empty Child, and Doctor Dances, and since 2014, The Day of the Doctor as well. And Talons of Wang Chiang, Tomb of the Cybermen, and many, many more. This story is considered one of the strongest in the show, and thank God. Thank God. I think it was even considered the best 80s story, no, the second best 80s story in Doctor Who magazines, in their 2014 poll in the magazine where they did all the results. I think it came second of the 80s after Caves of Androzani. Let me check that. Yep, number 2 of the 80s lot. And in the overall list, it came 10th. Yay! Of course, for me, it'd be at least 2, if not 1. See how I think of Day of the Doctor when I get to the review. But anyway, Remembrance of the Daleks. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And you know what? So Sylvester McCoy. Sylvester McCoy, I salute you. And thank you. I'll do it properly. And thank you for being the 7th Doctor and giving us some great stories such as Remembrance of the Daleks, Survival, Curse of Fenric, Battlefield, even Delta and the Bannerman People is, well, for me, I loved it. Also, I thought I'd do this quickly. Worst to best McCoy stories quickly, so you get an understanding what I think of his stories overall. The whole list, I should say. 12 is Time in the Rani, 11 Dragonfire, 10 Ghostlight, 9 Paradise Towers 8, Silver Nemesis 7, The Happiness Patrol 6, The Greatest Show in the Galaxy 5, Delta and the Bannerman 4, Battlefield 3, The Curse of Fenric 2, Survival 1, Remembrance of the Daleks. So season 25 is kind of a mixed bag when looking at it in a ranking perspective. However, for me, it's possibly still my favourite season, although 26 is still very strong, despite Ghostlight being not so high in my opinion. So yeah, that's it. And also I'll recap the top 5 once again. 5, Delta and the Bannerman. 4, Battlefield 3, The Curse of Fenric 2, Survival, and number 1, Remembrance of the Daleks. So that's it from me. Thank you for watching this ranking of the 7th Doctor's era. Once again, Sylvester McCoy, I'd just like to say thank you for being the 7th Doctor. Thank you. Right, now that's the 7th Doctor's era over. Well, apart from his scenes in the TV movie. But speaking of which, that's the next review. And we're now going to be jumping into the 8th Doctor's era. So, yeah, let's get started with Paul McGann's actually quite long tenure as the Doctor, despite him only having one proper story in that entire tenure. Well, it was 9 years till Rose came, well, almost 9 years till Rose came along, so it's technically a 9-year era. And even then, he was the incumbent Doctor as far as expanded media was concerned, like the novels and the Big Finish audios. So, yeah. Also, the Sharded webcast came out in that time, and he was the Doctor in that. So, I suppose that was technically his second on-screen appearance. But if you don't count that, then Night of the Doctor will be. But anyway, he certainly had the longest tenure, even if he only had one story. The 7th Doctor's tenure was also about 9 years in whole, but I think he has a few less months than McGann. Plus, you could also add Night of the Doctor onto the end of McGann's tenure to make it 10 years, I suppose. I guess, maybe. 9 years plus another one. I'll see you guys next time for Doctor Who 1996, or Doctor Who, the movie. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel. And I'll add the full-time Nirani. My friend Matt, well, I mentioned in the More Than 30 Years in the TARDIS documentary. I was wondering if I'd mentioned him here, but I remember my friend Matt Moyer and also another friend, John Luke Harry, also both my friends from the Universals, Matt. Yeah, this is probably the most controversial spot. Okay, what's your competition? Okay, that one's... I like parts of it, I hate the other part. I like parts of Dragonfly, I hate... Okay, you can burp now. So yeah, for me, which is led by Kate, as seen in series 7 and 8 and 9. C series is 7. And Jean Marsh delivers her best performance in the show to date. Again to battle Delta and the Bannerman. So a couple of them, other ones, they're still there to be. They're still good. And also, Robert Jezik, who would go on to be a famous big, well, not famous, a notable Big Finish actor, does play a and also, I think there's one. So yeah, Yep, Ronan Rumber, and last fight, and the Master gets one last fight, and Anthony Lane. But to be fair, Survival is a very strong and near-perfect story. But, to be fair, Survival is an outstanding and near-perfect story. And if Dave the Doctor went down in opinion, this would top the entire show. Ain't Neve? Don't worry, Nicholas Briggs will be the... Don't worry, Nicholas Briggs is only a few stories away. Don't worry, we're going to get Nicholas Briggs' Dalek voices in a couple of episodes. We're nearly there. We're nearly at Dalek. We're nearly there. We're nearly at... Oh, it doesn't rhyme. Curse of Fate. Oh, Curse of Fate was 5th. Once again, Sylvester McCoy. I just loved... sorry. At least until... Anyways, shut up. The 7th Doctor also had... anyway, so that's it from me. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time for Doctor Who. Or Doctor Who